but it's always a good topic, which is how much are you trying to disregard what's currently happening and just innovate versus make sure that you're relevant and your mixes or productions or whatever or songs make sense next to Dua Lipa or next to Playboi Carti or next to whoever, or Olivia Rodrigo, whoever you're potentially going to be on a playlist with. You know, one of my favorite among many, many, many great quotes from Kanye West, but he said, "Trend is always late." It's a really, really powerful idea that if you are looking at what's popular, the people who are going to do what's popular in 6 months are doing it and you don't know what it is yet. If you're looking at the thing that's the most popular and then you try to do it, you're already late. And so not that you necessarily need to be an innovator. Not everybody needs to be an innovator, but and by the way, I would say the majority of the money made in the music industry, maybe all entertainment industry, is, I guess, what you call the long tail. Like something innovates and then all the people follow it, and that's where the majority of the money is made. But that's not why most of us make music. Most of us make music because we're interested in the new thing, the different thing, the special thing, the groundbreaking thing, the thing that when people listen to it first are like, I'm not sure if and then it becomes the dominant form or the dominant sound or the dominant whatever. So it is a challenge, I think, especially for young engineers who are really playing a role in a larger project. It's perhaps less so for songwriters or producers, but really everybody and all of the business is pressuring you to do a thing that sounds familiar. And it's in a lot of ways our job to try to push as much personality, authenticity, innovation as possible. And whether you are, putting a microphone on a guitar amp or comping a vocal or making a sound or writing a song or cutting a vocal or whatever it is, the more you can try to push things forward in the face of basically all of the music business trying to shape you into something that's going to work. Like I play the role a lot of the person who takes the thing from the outside and puts it enough into coherence. Like I just worked on a song that we're delivering to Dale for mastering, I think today or maybe first thing tomorrow, that I'm really excited about, and I will post on my Instagram about it once it's coming out. But it's a song that's a really brilliant song, and my job was to basically, let's see how we can make this fit on today's top hits playlist without compromising any of it. We just want to enhance what's there, because what's there is interesting and like singer-songwriter and kind of rough, and how do we keep the integrity of that? But throughout the process, whether it's the producer, whether it's the record label, whatever it is, whether it's the Spotify playlist people, everybody is going to try to push what you're doing toward the center and toward a place so it makes sense to the most amount of people. And our job as creatives, whatever role you're doing, is to make sure that you're trying to do something interesting and fulfilling and new and exciting, and take responsibility for the role that we all collectively play as a creative community, and try to make things that are interesting and try to push things. And it's a really hard balance, and depending on your role and depending on the project, it's gonna differ. But I think it's a really profoundly important thing.
Of course. I mean, if you take a step back, every pop record sounds about the same for the last 20 years. Maybe every 2 decades, maybe a sound dramatically changes.
I'd say 4 out of 5 records.
I would say
listen to Billie Eilish sounds different.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. What I'm saying is in the same relative frequency spectrum, right? I'm talking about from a put it towards the middle standpoint. Yeah, lyrically, it should tell a story, be simple enough to understand, and poetic enough to feel like you can go deeper into it if you choose to as a fan. There's really no need for the deepest, most compelling lyric on top 40 radio, but artistry-wise, you probably want a second layer underneath what's being said, and a great songwriter can do both things. Sonically speaking, maybe since the 80s, let's just take 90s to now, things haven't sounded that much different from top to bottom in a frequency spectrum. So if you've at all listened to music of the last 30 years, and before, I would say even in the 70s, people were trying to get enough competitive top end and enough bottom end and maintaining enough mid range so it sounds present on smaller speaker devices, and you can hear the lyrics and you can hear the strum of the guitar, right? There's very many similarities towards the sound of records. So to say that you need to know, like someone said in the comment, like what's coming out now is made a year ago, maybe 4 years ago. Nobody was thinking about it not being competitive 4 years ago, and it's still competitive now because it was probably about the same amount of top end and same amount of low end. And someone went in the mix and carved out some mid range to make it sound more like a smiley face or whatever people fucking go for, you know? And I don't think we're very far off at all. I think EDM did a different thing. We moved that, but that was a phase, right? That was something that happened. It was a trend, and then people chased this trend, and then it still has. EDM will always exist. It always has existed since disco. Like this is not something. This feeling is not going to go away, but it is not as prevalent as, let's say, hip hop is. So culturally speaking, genres change and move on. But if you actually listen to a Travis Scott record and a Calvin Harris record, they have very similar sonic experiences. And they have this euphoria on the top in the reverbs and on his vocal, and a thick enough bottom end, not as, you know, Travis would have more potentially than Calvin Harris because the Calvin Harris thing has to be tighter and move you differently. And there's a little bit more range for low end and slower tempo records, like in hip hop.
Tempo's a big part of it.
Tempo's a big part of it, but if someone were to analyze this, I mean, maybe this has been done. Maybe those guys, what's that podcast that dissects songs? I forgot what it.
Song Dissector. I don't know.
No, Song Exploder. Whatever that one is. I'm sure they've done this. You just take all the records and like put them through an analyzer. I'm sure there's a lot of similarities between what's working and what's not working. Yeah, Song Exploder. Exactly. Thank you, Parker. So I don't think that we need to be studying what's coming out now to understand relevance for the sonic experience of what people want.
Mix engineer. I mean, this speaks to what we're talking about.
No. We as in people that listen to music and are trying to make popular music.
But you're talking from a mixing sonic standpoint, because
I mentioned lyrics. I mentioned creatively, all of the things. Like, yes, understanding what genre has the best chance of succeeding. You're not going to forget about that within a year, right? Like right now it's hip hop, and then there's like this alt emo scene coming back, right? Yes, you can innovate and try something new, but how long is that going to last? And then to be on to the next thing, I'm talking about putting things towards the middle, which is what you were talking about. Like you got all these, you know, creative people in the world, and then you're getting hired or I'm getting hired to bring it towards the middle, right? That's what the label's doing. That's what A&Rs are doing. That's what executives are doing. So we can maximize the possibility of success. That no genre is very far from that. There's not anything that's so different from each other that doesn't fit in the same box. I don't know how. I'm not saying that the best way, but like dance music and hip hop are not so far away.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what topic we're on at this point in terms of analyzing things. I just think in terms of mixing engineers, I think you're totally right, and I think you're taking the right approach, which is if you are a mix engineer, you don't need to go really deep into all these different genres to understand that low end needs to mostly feel a certain way, and maybe there's some specific things to understand if you're mixing a Travis Scott record versus a Calvin Harris versus an Olivia Rodrigo or more singer-songwriter. But generally, you're kind of after the same thing. So it does not behoove you to go as deep. I think for people who are in the creative process, it's hard to just jump into hip hop or country music or something else unless you're really steeped in it. But that may be a different conversation about producers and writers.
Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, all of this content is free. There's no secret knowledge here. There's no Patreon. We don't read ads. We don't have sponsors. We're just trying to build a knowledge base. All that we ask in return is that you share it with somebody. Thanks so much.